Hello, it's me. I'm back. I'm Namera, but this time I won't be casting, I'll be hosting, and taking my role will be Mast Swan over on the other side, all the way that away on the other side. And of course, he'll be joined by Samuel Initialize Hapgood, our well-tenured play-by-play by this point. Lovely to have you both, and lovely to have this game between the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming and our current first place team, although no longer undefeated, V3 Esports. We've seen a lot from both these teams so far, and they will both be looking to finish off their Super Week with a strong record. I want to ask both you guys, because obviously the onus will be on V3 in terms of their strength as a team. We don't necessarily talk in that same mindset about the Hawks. What do you think the points of power have been for this team, particularly because you've ended up casting a few more games than I have of them now because I missed yesterday's games? Gonna go to Lexi first, because obviously we haven't heard from you on the analyst desk just yet.
I mean, V3 still are playing pretty well. I think part of this is also break hiccup. V3 do seem to be a team that when a break happens, it takes them a little bit to get used to everything again.
Particularly for the Hawks. What's really been the hallmarks of their success in this Super Week?
Frankly, they've been punching down. But when they haven't been punching down, they have been punching up. They've just been drafting solidly and then also playing as a unit, which is something you should expect from most of these teams, but it's just taken so long for the Hawks to actually get to that place. Now that it's finally there, it's like, oh, well, this is the Hawks that we were all expecting weeks back, months back even. Finally, they're actually coming together. They're starting to actually, work as a unit, and it's so crazy to say that, but we saw from their last game versus Sengoku, they actually played as a team. And they work together. Their draft comp worked together, and now that finally there, the team actually looks really good.
So a lot of holistic things to consider there. Lots of the base instincts and technicalities working themselves out for the Hawks. Whereas Sam, I'm going to come to you a bit more about V3 on this side of things. They dropped a game to CGA, and for those of you that didn't catch that game, I want to ask you, was this something that can be exploited from V3? Was this a game where you think, hey, now there's a thread to pull, or was it just a rare mistake and we will never see it again from this team?
So I think it was partly a draft flaw from V3, who ended up in a position where effectively it was Boogie and Ace on double poke jumps with the Nidalee and the Jace, and then they couldn't set up around objective to throw out that poke, especially when they started getting a little ways behind. And it was kind of one of those things where some of the flaws in Ace's play that had been papered over by his champion pool and his kind of his excellence on things like Galio kind of finally got exposed a little bit there, and Arya went rampant on the LeBlanc. I believe it was Gango on...
And that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
Was he on Jhin that game?
I believe it's Jhin, yeah, exactly, who did a lot of really good work. They roamed the Jhin up to get some fantastic picks off in mid as well. Good pressure against Ace, but also the fact that his Jace was a little underwhelming. And that draft flaw, I think, more than anything else, put the V3 in a difficult position. And assuming teams can get Ace into that position where he's not on something that is as utility focused, or the LeBlanc, I suppose, would be the exception with the Syndra, maybe you can expose it. But it's relatively narrow, as far as we've seen so far.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the interesting things for me this Super Week is seeing how a lot of our top teams have almost had some formulas to beat them being kind of exposed in some ways. We talked a little bit about in terms of Sengoku, a little bit in terms of CGA as well. V3, though, it's just the one loss so far. However, were the Hawks to take this game, they'd push up to 3-1 and make a real push towards the top end of those standings, potentially getting themselves into the winner's side of the lower bracket, not up to the Juggernaut match. That is far beyond them at this point. They'd have to go up to 9 wins, which is sadly beyond them. But Lexi, as someone that came into this very season, in fact, being really high on the Hawks and what they could potentially do, how does it feel to finally have a little bit of hope after such a drastically bad spring split?
I mean, it feels really good. At the same time, I think I'm also taking it with a pinch of salt, as this is not... The lower level teams aren't at the max power that they have been in the past. Both Rascal Jester and Axis. Axis is now starting to turn it on a little bit too late, potentially, really moving forward. But Rascal Jester are also just significantly below in power. So I think the Hawks are partially going to get into this playoffs. But it's really nice to actually finally see them performing up to a level of, well, where I was hoping they would be at the mid to end of spring split. It's happening at the end of summer. This is where it actually counts, though, as this is where you get to go to Worlds. And a deep, long run, this could be a story for them.
Story for them, and stories do, of course, have power. Speaking of power, we're going to go over, and I want to ask both of you, we'll go to Sam first, about the power matchups and the power players for both these teams. Sam, is there one role which you think is going to be more pivotal than the rest, or is it slightly split across the map from either of these teams?
I think it'll be around the jungle, and I'll tell you why. It's Tussle in their win, particularly versus DFM over on the Saturday. His Lee Sin was pretty damn clean, and they snowballed really heavily through him. And we know how V3 like to play around Boogie. These junglers, if they can find agency, can do a lot with it, especially knowing that mid 2v2s from both of them can be fairly prioritized, both squads.
And so Lex, you're going to quickly go ask you the same question as well. Is there another lane you would like to kind of focus on, or are you happy with this whole jungle shtick which our jungler is talking about?
Well, jungle mid. I'm really thinking more of that duo lane, well, duo pickup.
The pseudo-duo
Yeah, I mean,
combination.
Boogie is just phenomenal. He's had one slight hiccup game, and outside of that is still phenomenal. Second in the world in KDA, still only behind Showmaker now, so
That's
congratulations to Showmaker. Wow. And Reiner is third. Like, they're still actually like, oh, we lost it. Rats, I guess we'll just fall down to only maybe the best mid in the LCK at the moment. Maybe Doinby is up, obviously LPL. There's still a fair few names
around.
Chovy, yeah, oh god, yeah, he's around.
Rookie just destroyed Knight the other day.
Man, there's still a lot, and I mean, people are still doing, like, Niski over in LCS. Like, there's still some pretty good mid laners. I'm concerned, though, still for Ace. Especially this pickup of the Jace in that last round.
There's something we've wanted to see him move away from that for quite a long time.
Yeah, and we had seen it with this Karma previously. Obviously, he's never going to get to play Karma at the moment, but with Galio, and there's a lot of other champions we know he can play. Syndra is a champion I've highlighted in off broadcast that not being played in the LJL, even though it's still being huge presence
very
priority.
high priority.
But no one in the LJL is playing it. Ace was a decent Syndra player, and I think I'd like him.
He was, and I'd hope that he still is. It has been it's been his best mate by quite a long way. However, speaking of these picks in high presence, low presence, not being picked, what will actually be picked? We'll find out in just a minute, because I think it's time to get into picks and ban, guys. But not before you tell me who's going to win.
It's going to be V3.
Yeah, it has to be V3.
And there it is, our current #1 team. No surprises there. I'd agree with them. And we will be heading over to that pick and ban, guys. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the cast.
Thank you very much, Nymera. Good to have you with me, Master One, for the first time today. Welcome to the caster desk. Gonna shake off those analyst or those host roles. Get to take on that color casting mantle once again this weekend. You've been putting in some overtime, buddy, but it's gonna be Hawks versus V3. And we've got Aramik, Tussle, Dasher, Honey, and Pooh rounding out their roster on the blue side this time around.
And for V3, we've got Paz, Boogie, Ace, Archer, and Reiner. And yeah, I've been putting in overtime. I think I counted the amount of hours I've been on Twitch, and it's almost a constant 10 hours over the last few days. And depending on how this does, it might be another one. Putting in them hours, but I wouldn't have it any other way, as we do see a few of these bans coming in. Twisted Fate and Volibear over for V3.
Yeah, Twisted Fate, so very strong at the minute. People don't want to give it up. Just gets you to side lanes, and that's always a sad thing. Galio, Ashe, and Set banned away from V3. All such exceptionally strong picks right now. Reiner's Set in particular terrifies me. We know what Ace's Galio does, and just Ashe in general is pretty damn strong. Interestingly, the Hawks ban it on blue. They don't want to pick it up for Honey themselves first pick.
Is interesting, does leave open a Felios, and we do know Honey is
very good
adores that champion to no end. Karma is also still open, and they can't. V3 is a team where I think they can bait them into this. Yeah, so okay.
All right.
Okay, well I know you love it. This is almost a running meme now.
First pick Evelyn is a great option. I would never ever say that you shouldn't first pick Evelyn.
There we go. That's
really. See, they've made a mistake. They've gone first pick to Fellas. How dare you do that?
No, because it's Paz can pick up this Karma and Boogie can get the Evelyn. It works perfectly this way.
Well, bluntly also, Karma into Aphelios is really nasty for Aphelios, right? Remember, Aphelios has the lowest base magic resist in the game. You can abuse him horribly in lane, assuming, of course, it isn't flexed to mid. Boogie will pick up his Graves there as well, which we know he can do really impressive things on. His lethality. Graves comes to mind. The Hawks have now responded with what looks like a Thresh and potentially a LeBlanc here for Dash Alexi.
Yeah, they're going to hover a bunch of stuff, so whatever. Graves coming in, though.
Not call it too early.
Yeah, Graves coming in for Boogie, one of his highest pick champions since those buffs really came in a fair few patches ago now, and Graves rose to huge popularity in that jungle, totally viable. I think the reason that Aphelios was picked over Karma, because this is a really interesting part, because obviously Karma has the insane world presence. The Hawks is not a team, outside of Pooh, I don't really see a single player on the side of the Hawks that could play the Karma. I don't expect Dash to play, I don't expect Aramik to play it, so it means it only falls to Pooh and designated
Aramik has played it top already, in fairness.
Oh, has he?
It has been done, so yeah, Hawks, Aramik has played it top.
I don't remember them winning that game, though.
No, he lost it, they lost it. It was the game versus CGA where they dived him under the tier 2 in the bot.
Oh, I remember, right, so in my head I'm just like, yeah, they're not going to play it because Aramik kind of had a horrible game. That's why V3 can pick it. And I can see, we've seen Ace play it to great effect. We definitely could see Reiner play it. And I also wouldn't pass up Paz to pick up a Karma if she is that good in the top lane. But far more, it's more of a flex between mid and support. Ban's coming in for our second phase, though. And we're seeing that that Kennen be banned away versus Aramik. Don't think we're surprised by that.
No chance that gets through to Aramik. He's looked pretty damn good on it. Sengoku Gaming definitely struggled to deal with it in the last game. Ornn as well away from Paz, who's used that very well, and it's some frontline that V3 would be really looking towards. It will be Dash's LeBlanc that's taken off. It is very good. Lee Sin LeBlanc is a very agency-heavy mid 2v2, and the Camille will be banned away as well, which we have known to be rising in priority. V3 thinking of blind picking the Zoe. It fits in theme. That is Zoe, Ezreal, Karma poke with Graves to blow up people who get caught out and taken low.
So then it's going to end up a lot on what Paz wants to pick, and they'll probably want some form of initiation heavy tank unit. Obviously that Ornn's already been taken away, but there's multiple different champions that V3 can lock in here. Seeing Aramik potentially getting that Wukong does actually work pretty well with what they've got. It works well with jumping in with Thresh and with the Lee Sin. Obviously, Aphelios, you can basically do anything and everything. But the problem is, Aphelios and Thresh have got to go against the absolutely abusive lane that is Karma Ezreal. You just don't get to do anything. And it's so good at kiting.
Yeah, and remember, Aphelios just gets outranged. Like, his Calibrum's there, and he's got a Q. Great news for you, I guess. But, like, even in the mid-game, like, unless people are out of position, Aphelios is going to spend his time, like, wishing he was enraged to auto-attack anybody. Because they're not going to stand anywhere close to him. Dasher goes towards the Kassadin. It's going to join up with that Lee Sin and the Wukong diving in, but it's a bold pick here.
I get what it's doing. It's on theme. Part of the problem, though, with this being quote-unquote on theme is, yes, Kassadin wants to go into the middle of the comp, hit everybody, smack them around, figure it out after that. Makes sense to me. Makes sense. Problem is, Kassadin needs to get so much further into this game than the rest of the other champions on their team. Meaning he's going to want to dash in when the rest of the champions aren't. We end up seeing, though, Reiner actually locking in this Nautilus, meaning Paz is going to be playing this Karma in the top lane.
And we always knew it was a possibility. It's got a fantastic win rate on top across the globe. It was 100% win rate for a very long time until Huni hinted on it a few times. No longer that way. I think it's sitting somewhere around 70% last I checked. Ezreal Nautilus is pretty good if you can find the right engages. Pretty safe as well. But it's not necessarily the lane that punishes Aphelios, I guess, anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, part of this, which is interesting for me, is that Aramik, over the last few games, has actually had some pretty coin flip games on this Wukong. 0-5-1, twice on Wukong, but then he's also had a 4-0-4 and a 3-1-6. So Aramik's definitely in a interesting places. That's a very confusing graphic that is on screen, so I will keep it on.
It's the star players from both teams having so much magic to them, we can no longer see their champion pictures.
It's Zoe doing this.
Beautiful. I understand it.
blame Zoe or Teemo's new prestige skin that just came out that might be the best prestige skin ever.
It's pretty nice. Pretty nice. I mean, there are a few nice prestige skins. I like
good ones.
I like Senna's prestige skin quite a lot. The VFX for that pretty nice. A lot of the KDA prestige skins are cool.
True. Have any of your mains got a prestige skin?
Evelyn's got one. I do remember the Evelyn one. I ground for that one over Christmas last year, and I spent a long time going for that one. I actually managed to grind for 2. I managed to get the Misfortune skin as well, so I'm pretty proud of myself for that. Got a lot of work over a couple of events when I had a bit of time off after my university course was done.
Wow,
good stuff.
Things to do when you finish university is apparently grind out League to get the pretty skin that you want, and you're also having to pay money because you need to get the prestige points somehow, so you need to get the pass and everything.
I just paid less than the £100 or whatever it would be for the straight prestige.
God, I can't. It does suck sometimes. I'm yet to actually get myself a prestige skin. I guess we should actually vaguely talk about the matchups on hand. Top lane, that's going to be an island for ages, as you're not going to be able to kill Paz, and Aramik won't be able to do much. Paz won't be able to kill Aramik won't be able to kill Paz. Only junglers can assist here. Wait for jungle help assistance.
Yeah, I mean, if level 6 hits for Wukong and Lee Sin, there is room where the Karma just gets booted back into Cyclones and dies pretty quickly. On the other side, though, of course, if the Karma route comes out, there's a fair amount of burst between a Q and an R from Az and Boogie, so could see maybe something there. I tend to agree with you, though. I think my eyes are interesting. I like. What are your thoughts on this mid lane matchup? Because obviously, Dasher is basically saying with the casting, like, I will survive lane versus you, and Ace's Zoe historically has been okay, but it's not been a superstar Zoe like, say, Pyrion or Arya in particular. I think comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, Ace's Zoe is always fine to okay. But he occasionally has the games where he dominates a game. He doesn't do it constantly like we expect from a lot of the other mid laners. He has more few and far between games. Sometimes he's not landing the absurd paddle stars and sleepy bubbles from miles out. Though at the same time, I could totally see Ace just popping off in this game and going to Dasher going, don't disrespect me. I'm in the best team at the moment in the LJL, and we're 9-1. We were undefeated coming into this. I'm part of the reason I could see Ace just taking this to Dasher and killing him at 6 and doing it multiple times over. And Dasher suddenly calling for Tussle going, Mayday, Mayday, it's all gone wrong. I don't know if I'm going to hit 16 this game.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's always a possibility with casting, right? You can just shut him down. Of course, though, Ace's stats on Zoe have been a little bit suspect at points in the past, as it hasn't got so much H on it. Kind of has fallen to similar stats to his Jace back in the day, which is not always the best look for Ace, but it makes a lot of sense in the composition. He's played a lot before, knows what he's doing, and could definitely find a way to poking out some of these shorter range carries with impunity.
I mean, think about it. The important thing to note is V3 chose this. They could have easily thrown him on the Karma. They got the Karma, which is a huge one. Outside of Galio, Karma is my second favorite champion for Ace to play, because when he plays it, he negated Arya. Like, Arya was still able to play the game, but he negated what Arya normally does against every other mid laner.
Killing Karma's really hard work, is it? It's really hard work.
That was the point. Ace is great at playing these support utility laners, and they could have just picked a top laner, given Paz a half-decent engaged top laner, and gone, okay, Ace, you get Karma, or Reiner, you get Karma, because we've already picked the Zoe, and we'll graft the top laner and go through that way. Decided not to, and, well, they're the team that's in first place with second stats across the board, only losing a few of these, actually, due to that one loss.
Yeah, well, you got to remember, they had it before that loss, in fairness to them, but the person they were losing it to was Sengoku Gaming, who we have seen have some flaws to them that V3 just don't. And, you know, even then, these stats are pretty phenomenal, bluntly. Like, it's like, oh no, I've got a goal difference of additional 1,700 at 15 minutes. Oh no, what an awful stat. We're just really bad as a team, aren't we? Oh no, our DPMs are like 2,000, like 2,000, you know, near enough 2,000 a minute. Oh, that's just awful. Like,
And also, we're just
it's not like anything to be ashamed of there.
Yeah, we're also in lane, securing all probably major objectives. Our farm, our jungler, well, no, not surprisingly, is always all over the place. And it's kind of not surprising that V3 just have these dominant stats across the board, and it's consistent. It's not like they're like a few teams we've seen with some of these stats where they spike in one or two places, but then they also lose out in other spots. V3 is the most consistent team across the board in their stats, and it kind of makes sense when you think about it, as they were the undefeated team.
Yeah, and the thing is that will always flatter stats, won't it? You're like, because you're winning a lot, your stats look really good. And you know, that's part and parcel of being a really good team who's dominating the region.
Exactly right.
And of course, that's great news to them as we're starting to head very close to playoffs. Right, we got one more week left after this as well. It'll be very interesting to decide. Of course, our playoff teams are locked. Seedings within that playoffs bracket or not.
Yep.
V3 though are guaranteed a juggernaut spot at this point. I'm pretty certain. Now, assuming they will do it after this win, I think possibly might be the way it works. I would need to just double check my notes somewhere, but of course, cleverly, I've not put them down in front of me. So take my word on it and hope.
They're pretty much a virtual lock. 2-0 will lock them into that top spot. So if they go 2-0 this week, they're a lock for first place as well. Well, not a lock for first place, but they're a lock for the gauntlet match, which is important. But obviously, they will want to get that priority going into that gauntlet match. As we're getting interesting. Late invade does come from V3. Does force Tussle to take Wolves instead.
And you can see that Boogie is being pinged out as this is happening, but this is what V3 can do when Boogie on a carry jungler, like Nidalee or this Graves. Another way of putting it would be the farming junglers, right? He can just sort of run over maps if he gets these aggressive early starts to throw another jungler off. He just uses those minute advantages so damn well. Honey and Pooh actually managed to get the shove in on Archer and Reiner early, but welcome to Ezreal level 1 when you don't have someone to back up his Qs.
Yeah. And I mean, coming out, looking at these runes and mastery, well, just runes actually. It's so in my head, runes and masteries, because I'm so used to masteries. I'm such a boomer. Everything here is pretty normal. The electrocute Lee is less orthodox. I have seen it occasionally, personally.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it used to be old tech. Of course,
it's like ancient technology, but it's
exactly. But like before Conqueror was busted, it used to be electrocute, and it's not super unsurprising to see.
It almost used to be Lord Dominus, which electrocute used to be. Well, that's the father to what.
Oh, you mean Thunderlord's decree way back when? Yeah.
But I mean, that was a broken rune. That was.
Oh yeah, it was also just a way cooler name. Like electrocute's kind of like low energy. Thunderlord's decree. There's something quite satisfying about saying that. That's a lit.
Wow, that's a really heavy leaning AI bot. We don't normally see it that heavy leaning. I think.
It'll be just Thresh's win rate is so high over here. Like, Reiner's played it so much, it's tilted the stats, and Aphelios has got great stats, so is Wukong largely. Lee Sin for the number players got it, and speaking of Lee Sin, that Q missed after the world hop? Oh, Tussle! Just as I was about to praise you, and Lee
Ace deserves to get away after that.
Yeah, no, he does. That can't believe that was a point blank Q. Cannot be doing with that. Boogie and Reiner now looking to punish with their own roam. I don't know whether they're going to find all that much. Dash is going to back away. A little more to be found there.
Yeah, an important part of why Tussle probably went for this electrocute is obviously that incoming change that happened to Conqueror. Now from 12 stacks up from 10 stacks. Obviously, his full combo won't actually give you Conqueror sometimes. You're going to have to interweave these auto attacks, which can sometimes be hard in very quick team fights. Obviously, these are some of the best players in the world, and obviously the current best players in Japan, so you'd expect them to be able to stack it effectively, but even the best sometimes make mistakes.
And Boogie's back for this Grump spawn. He's time Aramek spots him. But he's got to go back to lane so he doesn't lose too much CS. That's a flay back now from Pooh. But Reiner turns it around with the passive route. And health bar rate relatively even, and the health pots are ticking. I believe Boogie secured that with the smite.
He did. And look at this just complete walk around from Boogie. He's like, no. Your topside jungle, my jungle now. My jungle. I'm controlling the jungle. Hasn't done any ganking. Doesn't need to at the moment. All his lanes are currently looking pretty happy at the moment. All of them are up in CS. All of them are poking. Well, actually, all of them but bot lane. But bot lane's a weird one to sometimes judge, so it's close enough.
It's good. It's good news for the lanes of V3. You're absolutely right. The two AP solo laners coming out to nice CS leads, forcing, of course, the Wukong and the Castin under turret. They're not great laners. And that's always a bit of a risk versus V3 having two losing lanes. Certainly led out to an early gold lead of about 600.
Yeah, and part of this is also the agency and partly why we love watching Boogie play. His lanes are winning. He's not going to have a lot of opportunities to gank in. So what's he going to do? Counter jungle the F out of Tussle and basically destroy any opportunities for him to try and impact his own team. Boogie is just running around the map. He's taken Gromp twice, took that blue buff, so he got triple buff, remember? And now he's like, okay, Ocean Drake's coming up live. I'm going to go back by, get an extra longsword for his trouble, and now we'll come down to this dragon and probably look to try and get some priority with Archer, Reina, and Ace.
Yeah, gonna certainly give that a go. We can see the spawn is there, and Boogie's probably got the stats for it, honestly, with the health pots and inventory. And if he gets a little bit of support from Reina or Ace, I think it would be a doable option. See whether he absolutely wants to do it. He's certainly roaming down. He will be on vision, though. The ward placed in the river there will be spotted out by the pink ward. Boogie places down, and there we go. End of the line comes out, and Boogie will step in to start up the Ocean Drake.
And look at that. He immediately started when Ace had full pushed in his wave. Obviously, Dasher can't do anything to him. Comes over. Ooh, double smite. Why not do that? Helps.
Zoe, spell thieves, man. It's something.
Yep. Priority from Archer also comes up, gives them that. They're going to reset anyway, so they can just walk out of lane, give Boogie and Ace the safety that no one else will come. And even if Tussle could come down, they had full priority, brilliantly played. And with this Rift Herald coming up, we know V3 do like to prioritize Rift Heralds when they can, especially as Boogie is 6 and Tussle will probably be ticking out to 5 after this Gromp.
Just that early advantage and collateral damage when you've got poke lanes turns poke into death. We saw it when Varus was super meta. You throw Varus Qs and Zoe Qs, and then the collateral damage comes out and people disappear. For now, though, it's going to kind of set back into this sort of just straight laning phase. Level 6 at least been hit for Dasher, now to level 7. So this casting's kind of starting to get some agency, which is good news. Same with Aramik, that's good news. But the early advantage is definitely there for V3.
It's so dirty watching Boogie play. He's like, alright, Dasher's going to get the blue buff, so that's fine by me. I'm now going to go get his red buff. And because of how I've timed it, because I went to get Gromp all that time ago...
Ooh, flash away from the bubble there. Dasher was like, oh, that was stupid. All right, well, he throws out that cat as well. He knows he made a mistake. Aramik going in for the trade with Paz. That's the W out for Paz to root, but Tussle is around. Paz now in danger, potentially, but V3 are roaming. It will be a 2 versus 3. The Sonic Wave lands, but I don't think Tussle wants to take it. The bubble lands onto Tussle. The flash now out, but Ace is still going to land it. The Ignite is down, and first blood to Ace. The W root landing in as well, and it's a double from Ace with a swift paddle star at the end of the portal. Nice stuff out of the mid laner of V3.
And this whole time, because they had that priority and because Ace was doing so much of the damage there, Boogie was able to just immediately start this Rift Herald. They made these calls insanely quick. Boogie didn't even attempt to come over, dashed over this wall and actually started Rift Herald. When he realized the fight, there was no point for him to come up. Watch this, what happens here. Paz goes so low, but because it's a Karma, you can't really judge the health, especially because of the runes that they've gone with this Karma. So Ace comes around. See, Boogie's already given up. He's like, nah, don't care. Beautiful sleepy bubble there. Paddle Star hits in. The Ignite plus the auto attack gets that. And then look at this Paddle Star. He weaves this around because of also using the jump through. Well played, Ace. You're having your really good game today on Zoe.
Soul Flare and Paddle Star multi-poke. Tussle and Aramik fall down, and this Zoe, we kind of maybe said like, Ace has had some interesting games on it. Doesn't look like to be having an interesting game on it this time. He's looking absolutely phenomenal right now too.
Well, that is the interesting game of it, right?
Right? He's down a little bit of CS, having roamed out a lane for those 2 kills, but you take the 2 kills on the dragon that you left lane for.
And what's great is also Ace now gets the blue buff. Boogie is able to just push out. Got double red, so he's not even down on experience on actual camps. Dasher, his Tussle at the moment, though, is still down. He had to give over the blue buff that eventually ended up going to Boogie. No, didn't go over to Boogie. He actually ended up having that blue buff. Didn't do much with it. throughout this whole time, Tussle's now down about 3 jungle camps from buffs alone. That's a huge experience disparity, and you can see this where Tussle is 6, and he's about coming up to 7, whereas Boogie's well into, well, he's actually just ticked over to 8, and is resetting. The amount of gold, he got the Rift Herald, he's so much further ahead, and this game's going to get very hard for Tussle to actually ever fight Boogie for the next, 4 or 5 minutes at least.
2-level discrepancy at 10 minutes is rough for the jungle, and with the way jungle XP has changed over this year in general, you don't recover that really unless things go really, really long, and that 20 CS discrepancy is gonna hurt. We've seen Boogie time the Gromp spawn that he invaded for at level 1, come back and punish that a number of times. He's got Rift Herald in inventory as well, so he'll be looking to get plate gold to really snowball even more. All of this is bad news bears for the Hawks, frankly. They have got to hope that they can hit some mid-game team fights with the Wukong and the Lee Sin kicks with, Dasher trying to get in with the casting scale and damage there, but they need not to bleed out too much more gold. They're already down 2,000 gold, my squad.
They're already down, and one thing of note, Boogie came down to this bot lane because Cloud Drake is going to be up in only 15 minutes. They're getting this Rift Herald, and they're going to be forcing it. Tussle, you're going to need to help your top laner here, or you're going to be losing this turret for absolutely nothing. No, it's just gone. Just sacrificed it. Look at this rotation as well. Liner came up to the top lane, offered the support. Now back here for this Drake, and they're going to be getting that first turret.
Yeah, and if Graves gets to just stand right next to it out, all those bullets hit, and they just disappear.
Oh, they do.
So much damage to a turret if he gets the chance. And first turret goes over. That snowballs.
Oh no, they're getting a second hit.
Over 3,000 gold, and it is going to be a second hit. Hell, they might look for a little bit more here. Aramek probably needs to be a little bit wary. He's Wukong, and diving a Wukong can always be a little scary. Tussle now roaming down, but it's just going to be just a 2-tower trade, and they get to roam over to the Cloud Drake that spawned.
And really important, Paz in this top lane has been able to keep only losing 3 turret plates. 2 turret plates, actually. That's insane, because it's a Karma. One, you have effective wave clear, and also trying to dive a Karma outside of landing a perfect Thresh hook, ignite, the full combo that you have to do onto it. It's so hard to do on a level 10 Karma when you're level 7, level 8 Aphelios Thresh. What do you do?
So, I mean, that gold lead has exploded in the space of a minute from 2,000 to 4,000 off the back of that. They got 2 turret plates, or 2 turrets and all the plates on that first turret, when there's just not a response from the Hawks there, which is just massive. Look at that gold discrepancy in pretty much everywhere.
Huge. I know
1,000 in jungle, 1,000 in top, 800, 700 in mid, 500 in bot,
It's important.
That's awful stuff.
Everywhere it matters. Reiner and Pooh can be equal. Reiner's actually currently down a level over Pooh because he's been roaming so much, but he already has hit exactly what he needs. He is now going to be just roaming around this game, causing huge problems, because guess what? No one ever wants to target Reiner because everybody else on the side of V3 is so backbreaking for them. And think about what Paz is going to be able to do come late game. Reiner doesn't need to do anything because he can just jump into the middle of them, ult, stun everybody, and Paz is just going to keep him alive with all of the shields that's going to be coming out, and then they're going to have to be worrying about Archer, Ace, and Boogie just destroying everybody. They've only just got, Dasher's only just got this Rod of Ages recently. 1 tick over, isn't going to have a lot of mana regen going up, didn't go for that aggressive tier, might cause problems later.
It might do, because I suppose the problem is going for the tiers. It's even more scaling. And he's like, well, maybe I just need power now. Lantern will get Honey out to safety. That was getting a little scary. And I have the question, what's Tussle's been doing in that game? When the play was going on bot with the Herald, he hung around Aramek to offers to shield the Wukong, but didn't save the turret. It means he didn't go top to threaten the dive on the Karma, which you absolutely can do with the kick under tower and stuff. So, what was this Lee Sin doing? He's he could go on a Boogie here, but he is down a Phage and a Crystal to that particular jungler alongside the level. I don't think you want that. He's now on Vision. This Lee Sin has been a bit aimless, I think, Maswan.
Well, part of that came because he just lost the first three jungle camps that he came up.
Oh, it was not a good start, I grant you.
And then he decided to give over. Look, oh my god. Wow.
That's a lot of plate difference.
And the only reason they didn't get 5 up in top is because they got it they only got the last, or they destroyed the top turret at 7:14. Almost. So close, yet so far. this is the disparity difference. 3-0 in, 5-0 in objectives around the map if we include those dragons. If we want to include Drakes and everything else, it's 6-7. So much. V3 are so far ahead in multiple different avenues, not only the gold, but experience, but in objectives. And, oh no,
Aramek needs to be a bit afraid. Ace is roaming
behind
up as well. He's got Flash.
All the other members are roaming up.
Clone. He's got Cyclone. He's going to have to make this work. There's the Clone. The Q comes out, but the sleep lands regardless. Boogie is on the board, and that was far too easy. Aramek, weak side, is still a serious issue.
I think Paz actually can now beat Dasher in the 1v1 purely just how far he is in this game at the moment. And
he's indexed towards armor here, so maybe Dasher could turn it around.
That's true, actually. But because of all the slows and the kiting and shields, I just
true.
don't actually think Dasher has any burst damage that doesn't just kind of look
shy
at
on
a
items,
Paz
though,
shield.
Yeah.
And Paz just looks at it and goes, cool. I already have also more mana regen, and you can only cast your ult like 3 times? I can chill for ages longer than you. Those fairy charms are actually far better than what he's got, and they're just brute forcing this.
Well, is it brute force when there's nothing there to contest? It's just free real estate. Flash in from Pooh, though, is looking to put Boogie in the dirt. Rip that man's KDA. Now Reiner is getting jumped on, has to flash out, and the brute force was a bait. It wasn't free real estate. It was a trap. It was a pit full of snakes, and Indiana Jones is out there saying, why is it always snakes? Didn't work out all that well. Now Paz in a bit of bother. This is the first proactive move we've seen from the Hawks, and it's looking good a little bit there. Dasher will hop over the wall. Instead, the Hawks, off a pick in the mid lane, will get the mid tier 1. I was about to say that V3 normally have a 2k gold lead at 50 minutes, and this time it's 4k. It still is, but at least the Hawks turn it around and get something for themselves there.
Yeah, they got something, a slightly uncharacteristic mistake from Boogie. However, it is actually something that we're going to have to pay note of for moving into week 7, as this is the second time that Boogie has been caught out, and it cost them something pretty big. I mean, part of that is also Reiner. Reiner could have actually tanked that instead if he didn't dredge line away, but Reiner, I think correctly, was just like, I'm going to just try and get as far away from this as possible. Didn't get that Thresh Lantern instead. But I mean, even with that, V3 are still going to just take this dragon, and it's going to be really hard for the Hawks to actually come in because both teams reset, and who's strong at the moment? V3 by a country mile.
They are, but you got to be aware, Aramek is level 11. That's the second rank of that. Oh my days! Never mind. I was going to say Cyclone. There's no wolves to queue, buddy. You're on vision, and well, that was a 4-level discrepancy mid to jungle, and the Paddle Star hits home like a nuclear warhead, or realistically, like a small star. Nuclear fusion is a thing, and it turns out it burns small monks to death. Oh no! Pooh Bear goes golden. The True Shot Barrage is well timed, and Boogie will claim it with a smoke screen. And yeah, the smoke screen will hide the tears of a very dead Thresh. That's the knockup from the dredge line. Honey flashes out, but the shove in continues.
And they're getting 2 double push on these Rift Heralds. These are huge, because normally the second hit on another turret is what actually really... Oh,
here we go. All right, Dasher went in, but so is Tussle, who's trying to stay alive. Aramek has gone up with the Cyclone, but V3 go golden. They're going to try and turn it around. Boogie and Archer pick up 2. Honey falls as well, so Ace is in on this fight. It is 3 for none. They're going to shove in on this mid lane tier 3. They are onto inhibitors. It's not even 19 minutes into the game. Hell, they're thinking about going for Nexus turrets.
You're on candid camera, Hawks. This is not America's Home's funniest videos or anything along those lines. This is just pure...
This is more like Crime Watch. People are like being murdered on screen. What is this? If you've seen any of these people, they're dangerous. Don't approach them and call your local authorities.
This is what CGA did. Blame CGA. This is a V3 who are like, whoa, we don't lose. No, watch this. Okay, so Rift Herald gets summoned really early. Ace is just a stone cold killer in this game. On this Zoe, beautiful. The smoke screen does take it. Obviously, multiple people tried to go for the kill steal, and then they get it. Ace has been landing phenomenal games, and if he can
He's
start playing
so
like
good.
Zoe every single time like this, on top of having a deadly LeBlanc like this, as well as a really solid Syndra, on top of the Galio, on top of the Karma, V3 are going to be very versatile, and part of it's going to come from the flexibility that their mid laner is going to offer them. It is going to be questions, and we are going to have to follow that closely moving on, but if this keeps up,
Yeah.
V3 and crew are going to be phenomenal moving forward, and maybe internationally, depending on how things go.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves yet.
not
but
too far,
But the thing is, you're right to get excited, aren't you? Because like V3 have looked very, very good splits. They are our front runners to win the summer split. And having Ace look good on a more carry champion is great news for V3. Of course, it was against the Kassadin, and we're going to see an engage on to Paz. But taking down a tank Karma is an exercise, sometimes in futility. She's still half HP. She's got the flipping W still if she wants it. That's a clone, and the Hawks back away saying, well, we wasted a lot of ultimates there and got nothing. Too little, too late. It's beginning to feel like right now they're down 9,000 gold at 20 minutes. They have no control over the jungle. The Mountain Drake Soul will be on the table for V3 in 2 minutes. And they're going to start up a Baron before that. They are on vision. It's now being swept out, so V3 know that they are spotted. But maybe they're just looking to bait a fight. Maybe this is just them saying, yeah, we want you to fight us, and we're going to force you. So either you let this go, or you lose the fight coming at us.
But look
Ace
at this
and
zoning.
Reiner are just right, just buying all the time. It's already down to 2,000 HP, and Hawks just hack away. Baron for free, Mountain Drake in a minute 30, and V3 are a Mount Everest ahead of Hawks right now, and that mountain to climb, it's seeming pretty insurmountable.
And look at how this Mountain Drake is actually going to be really good for V3. They already have the ability to kind of look at the opponent and go, well, we're not going to die. We're not going to die. We have a Karma. Everyone's really strong at the moment. Tank Karma plus Mountain Soul with an Ezreal that's building a Death Dance, so actually gets the ability to still have tankier stats because it gets the scaling.
Karma's gone for tank stats here as well. She's gone for armor and MI here.
My point exactly, as well as the Nautilus. Okay, Zoe and Graves aren't going to get a lot of it, but Graves actually has built-in tankiness into his kit. So much is just going to be going through with this Mountain Soul. It's going to make it almost impossible for Sengoku to... Oh, no, not for Sengoku.
Who's looking for something, doesn't get the hook. Aramix in the backline, but now he is in trouble. The clone out, but it means the disengage is there, and Hawks come back with nothing again. And
Mid's just auto pushing.
Like, look, Dash is on a tier trough. He got a late tier, Lexi. He's got nothing to his name. The top lane inhibitor is now under siege. It's likely to fall. They've got a minute and a half just over still left on this Baron, and they can retreat to Mountain Drake whenever they so please. Ace trades a lot of his health bar to put Honey nearly in the dirt. The collateral damage does miss, but at least the Aphelios keeps us alive. They're not even going to bother. They're going to siege onto the remaining Nexus turret. They just want to try and end it. Hawks, you've got one last roll of the dice. You're just going to lose in ignominious fashion at not even 25 minutes. Archer stays alive. Poos goes in, but finds nothing. Aramix super low. That is the W from Paz that finds a root, and Boogie will slay the Thresh. He'll slay 3. He'll leap looking for more. But now we've got Dasher on one side and Honey on the fountain. Nexus under siege, and V3 move to 10-1. The defeat yesterday made them angry, and they slaughter the Hawks in this game.
They absolutely brutalized them in 3 ways, more than one. Congratulations to V3 Esports on that game, and it was well and truly Salah initialize.
It seriously was. Started off from a fantastic level 1 invade from Boogie. It started off from Ace having a fabulous game on Zoe, but we won't gush too much because we can do that on the analyst desk once we come back in a minute or
Hello and welcome back. We've changed the genre of the stream. We've cut away from the horror movie that was just on screen to something a little bit more PG rated. Normally us reviewing said footage and talking about that game which just happened, which was over relatively quickly between V3 and the Hawks. Of course, V3 coming out to a huge win. This was a very short game with a lot of early game champions picked in it from the V3 team, and they did run over it from start to finish. Do you want to talk about how, on the other side though, Tussle, we talked about the mid lane jungle 2v2, and it did look though V3 had his number, and Tussle really couldn't find anything in this early game. Sam, I know you had a lot of stuff to talk about this. Take it away.
Yeah, so Tussle was in a bind from the level 1 in some ways. Basically, because he had two losing lanes. His top and mid were always going to be kind of pushed in by a Karma and a Zoe who've just got range advantage way early on. It's two melee matchups, you know what Wukong and Cass like. But then it kind of hit this point where he wasn't even looking to trade or even stay even. The one that really comes to mind is the bot lane play with the Rift Herald for V3, where V3 get all 5 plates bot on the bot tier 1, and obviously the first turret. They get the second tier turret, and Tussle that entire time just shadows Aramik, who's under these turrets and doing nothing. All the while, his bot lane are pushing into a Karma 2v1 and only get 2 turret plays. Like, if he had been up there, maybe he could have looked for a dive or something. Shadowing the Wukong bot got him absolutely nothing, and it just looked very aimless from this Lee Sin this game.
Whereas the person who we can never really attribute aimless to is Boogie, his counterpart on V3. He was ahead right the way from level 1, had himself up, as Lexi was saying in cast, pretty much a 3-camp advantage, and all of those being buffs. He ended up running over, as that, I mean, I've used that term so much today, but it has never been more applicable than for this point right now. He was ahead in gold, ahead in damage, ahead in pressure. This guy was running away with this game. Lexi, what did you think of Boogie?
I mean, Boogie is just, this is what we expect from him now. This is the gold standard from Boogie.
But yeah.
It is high expectations, but I think part of that is because we almost recognize Boogie as international talent. He's that high in the tier list, in our own personal tier list. We have spoken constantly about how good Boogie is and how much of an impact he's really had on the whole region of the LJL. Suddenly, jungle priority is a huge thing, and we've seen lots of teams kind of take part of what Boogie's success has been in spring, bring that into summer, and the impact and impression he's had on other junglers, as well as other teams, as well as V3's rise to power, is just can't be understated. He's so good, and he just kind of went to Dasha and said, "My game."
And honestly, though, I think there's one person we have needed to talk about for a little while now, and we need to talk about him specifically in this game. We filled our quota of Boogie praise. We rarely fill our quota quite to that same extent for Ace in the mid lane for V3. Before the game, we had some questions about him. This split, we still had some questions for him. Spring, we had a lot more, and he's slowly been getting further and further closer to the radar. I know his Jace game versus CJ left us with a lot of things to be asking those questions about. But his Zoe was impeccable this game. As a mid laner myself, I saw him go for this kill on these double kill onto top lane. I thought, oh my word, this guy played that mechanically just about as well as he could. Sam, take me through how Ace played this game.
This was, let's put this caveat in to begin with. It was Zoe into casting. It's always going to be a nice matchup early for Zoe because you just have the range advantage and you can just throw paddle stars out and get in control as easy as you like. And that's great news, especially when your jungler's Boogie and you can use that pressure super well. But we've seen Ace, Zoe, Jace before in those matchups not get a lot done. That is just not the case this game. He comes up to an early CS advantage, roams top, as we said, turns around the gank that Tussle was trying to put onto the Karma top. Paz doesn't die, it's Karma. Welcome to tank Karma in the world. It's so obnoxious. He then manages to slide the bubble through the wall, catch out Tussle post-flash with a paddle star that skirts the invisible Wukong, then works his way around the minion wave to get a really clever little bit geometry Q to catch out the Wukong as well. And after that point, he is hitting like a sledgehammer with every Q he puts out. I
found a new octave. I found a new octave in my range. I didn't realize I could go that high, really.
Well, I mean, it turned out a point later on where he was just playing this the gatekeeper around objectives super well as well. We saw it around the Baron pit where we picked up a GOP. Like, no, it was basically him and Reiner sat for 5 people and they could do nothing to him. Yep. Tussle tried to fly the flank around one of the dragons as well over by the Wolf pit, where he throws a Q, puts a ward down and then auto attacks him, and the Lee Sin dies. He was that far ahead. Just really good stuff.
Passive is one heck of a drug. And I know you're talking about the Cassidy being the said matchup, and Lexi was talking about we're fighting a new octave, and to find that new octave, it looks like V3 took the game by the balls, and they ran through the map. They just abused this map state before Cassidy could fight before, and even taking a mid inhibitor before 20 minutes. Lexi, V3 in this early game into mid game, it seemed like everything was on the agenda for them, all the turrets, all the objectives, all the dragons, and all the kills too. How did V3 achieve this?
I think they did their homework. I think they went back more than anything else and kind of were like, okay, how do the Hawks actually win their games in a lot of senses? And they prioritize parts of, we need to get Ace on a champion that can actually go toe to toe against Dasher, because Dasher is an aggressive mid laner. Okay, how can we make it so we can get this Karma early? But then, if we can see that they're not really going to prioritize him, we'll put him on a Zoe. He can go toe to toe with him. He can also just kind of farm up and go into other lanes, which is how we actually saw the beginning of this game go. He roamed, got first blood, got that kill.
And not a roaming champion either.
Exactly. Started playing around it, but he's so used to roaming already because he plays roaming champions. He's like, this is just part of all of it. I'm waiting for him to pick up Pantheon mid again, and for that to become a thing. We saw him play Nocturne historically. Anything that roams, apparently, Ace is like, did I hear that? Twisted Fate.
Bro.
That's my music. That's my music.
My people are calling me. And let's be real, bot lane for V3 are just maybe the best bot lane. We already said in our cast that we think
very, very
Boogie
strong.
and Reiner are the best 2 players in the league, and that was our only 2 contention. After that, everybody else comes.
Archer's no slouch either.
No.
Yeah.
No, and so much went for V3, and they're kind of showing why they are currently the best team in the region.
Absolutely. So I don't want to labor the point too much right now because we've had a lot of gushing to do over V3 and we'll continue to do that in the future of the LJL, officially unofficial, make no doubt about that. The Hawks sadly coming away with a loss. V3, however, regaining some of their form, which they couldn't quite find versus CGA, and keep up that winning streak. They end this on 10-1, I believe it is, all things said and done. Yes, they will be ending on, actually, no, it'll be 11-1, all things said and done with the other games that we have covered. We do have one game still to go in the tank to get us across that finish line, and that will be Burning Core versus DFM, a matchup which in the first time out actually got a little close for comfort for DFM, and after a series of losses from our perennial overlords of the LJL, this will be one you do not want to miss. We'll throw ourselves over to a quick break. You best be here when we get back.